first into battle is what guarantees the courage of those that follow.
We have had modest numbers of U.S. military forces on the ground in Afghanistan for weeks. And there's a picture of them on horseback. We have had modest numbers of U.S. military forces on the ground in Afghanistan for weeks. And there's a picture of them on horseback. We have had modest numbers of U.S. military forces on the ground in Afghanistan for weeks. And there's a picture of them on horseback.
That picture compelled artist Dow Bloomberg to create a statue for a monument at Ground Zero.
I think there's a challenge to doing a military piece that shows more than just one or the other aspect of warfare.
Dow's other challenge is to finish it in time to lead the nation's Veterans Day parade in New York. The clock is ticking. Which is why 4 horsemen of 9/11 round up.
We wanted to move. Horses were the only way.
You know, it looks glamorous. It's not. It's not glamorous.
Here's the bridle.
They'll share, for the first time, their personal stories and photos of that secret mission to inspire the artist at his Kentucky studio during his mission.
This is so cool.
These 4 commandos, from one of 3 operational detachment, or A-teams, Lieutenant Colonel Max Bowers, their Green Beret Ground Force commander, now retired, hand-selected these specific men by name for this crucial mission.
You know, when you are tasked or required to do things like this where there's no precedent, you rely on the courage that, you know, manifests itself in situations like that, because, you know, you certainly never want to let down one of your buddies.
Master Sergeant Bart Decker, Air Force Special Operations Combat Controller, now retired, called in the airstrikes.
Special operator has a lot of heart, obviously, to keep going through what he's put through. When 9/11 happened, you know, you had to be ready.
Sergeant First Class Joe Young, U.S. Army Special Operations Command, their Green Beret medic and sniper.
No one man, no one horse did it. No one commander did it. It was a collective mission.
And Master Sergeant Chris Spence, 5th Special Forces Group Communications Sergeant, now retired. He took all these photos.
And then I look back, and here comes this troop of horses. The picture you saw coming over this hill. And I'm like, no one's gonna believe this shit.
Yeah.
And I take my camera, I'm like, shh, and that's where I got the photo of them coming over the hill.
At the Foundry, Dow forges the photos and the stories of these horse soldiers into bronze.
The divine intervention with this piece, the fact that I was a horse trainer for 18 years, and the fact that I've been a military history buff, it all comes together into this one piece. I get the soldier's experience. I understand what was happening in Afghanistan. I know what it's like to ride a horse in the wind. I know what it's like to have a horse jump away.
For most, it was their first time on a horse, but their mission was crucial: synchronized tribal warfare against the Taliban and Al-Qaeda by riding with and advising rival Northern Alliance warlords. This team and 2 others rode Afghan stallions trained to run towards gunfire and explosions. They even witnessed a cavalry charge.
4 waves, I remember. They were lined up in 4 different waves. One wave would go, second, third, you know, just like something you'd see rolling in on the beach, you know.
Very coordinated.
Except it wasn't sabers being swung around, it was AK-47s.
There were no Americans leading it. And it really looked like something you would envision in the Old Testament that, you know, Cecil B. DeMille would film when Charlton Heston comes walking out of one of those buildings.
Surreal, but deadly serious. Their enemy was also the steep terrain.
Some of the terrain we crossed at night, you go, my God, I can't believe we went over that on a horse.
And if someone would have fallen off, we would not have known.
Their medic, Joe Young, continued the mission with a broken back after his horse slid and fell on him.
2 shots of morphine, and to relieve the pain, I would not allow myself to be the weak link. That's not in my nature, and it's not in any Green Beret's nature.
American sentiment was, we need to go get those bastards. And that was the bottom line. And to be in the place and time to be the chosen few to go do that, it was an honor to be chosen.
Colonel Bowers, who chose them, carried a piece of the World Trade Center on their mission as a reminder.
I pulled that out and said, this is why we're here. We simply want to ensure that it's not a sanctuary for terrorist forces that have attacked the United States.
The three teams attacked back with airstrikes. Air Force combat controllers like Bart Decker used laser designators to guide bombs onto targets, impressing General Abdul Rashid Dostum, the warlord they were advising.
And General Dostum pointed at it and said, yeah, that's like a, what we would say, as kids, as a ray gun. It'll evaporate you.
Bart tells war reporter Alex Quade he also coordinated air attacks with a female navigator on an AC-130 gunship overhead, nicknamed the Angel of Death.
General Dostum could hear that through my handset on the radio. And then, he made that broadcast down to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Hey, look, a female up in this airplane is, wreaking havoc on you.
And also in this male-oriented society,
Absolutely.
How was that taken?
Oh, that's an insult, obviously, to the Afghani men, the way they, of course, the way the Taliban, used to beat down the women. So.
Another psychological operation involved their medic Joe dressed as one of Dostum's fighters.
Dostum's forces had captured a fairly significant mullah who was wounded. He'd been shot through the arm, and you can see Joe has an Afghan headband.
I treated him just as I would treat anyone else.
And we had a discussion with Dostum and said, look, we need to let him go. And when he goes back, what he will do is tell the Taliban that he was treated humanely. As a result of that, there were surrenders that took place. They knew that they were not going to be butchered if they were captured.
Hundreds surrendered in the violent battle for Mazar-e Sharif, crammed onto trucks by Northern Alliance members who didn't properly search them. They were brought to the fortress of Kuala Jangji for questioning by U.S. intelligence agents.
What we didn't know that some of those prisoners that came out, there was an American amongst them.
Wounded prisoners were moved to the Sheboygan prison camp, where intelligence agents asked medic Joe to help treat them.
I heard a voice. You could tell that the accent was not there. Something just didn't quite sound right. I went over to the individuals that had brought me there. I don't quite think we have all Taliban or Al-Qaeda here. He was listening to the conversation and immediately wound up scooping him up. The aftermath was, it happened to be Walker.
Johnny Walker Lind, the American Taliban.
I have talked to these guys. I have seen their footage, so it's truth. We have armed forces full of heroes that are on the other side of the world for us while we're sleeping in our beds in comfort. They're out there doing this stuff.
The teams battled north through the Taliban stronghold of Kunduz.
There was quite a few of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda utilized fighters to neutralize those guys.
There was some real hatred, and there was a bloodlust for revenge amongst some of them that was palpable. The Taliban decided that they were going to force the issue. When the shooting started and they began to fire, we felt like there was no alternative other than to strike that to rubble.
Calling in CAS, close air support, and at various times that was definitely needed.
We were worried that based on the tactical disposition at the moment, had things changed, that it would have been a fight of a very close proportion.
Translation: the teams were almost slaughtered. Meanwhile, back in Mazar-e Sharif, the surrendered fighters rose up and took the arsenal of weapons inside the fortress.
Mike Spann was killed when the uprising started. He was within the fortress, and unfortunately, when that uprising started, he was seized and killed.
Mike Spann of the CIA became the first American killed in action in Afghanistan.
Do they get wounded? Yes. Have they lost friends? Every one of them. Have they had days of despair and grief and questioning why they're there? Absolutely. But they are there doing it for these other motivations.
Months later, after the Taliban regime had fallen, the special operations teams went back to Mazar-e-Sharif, where Mike Spann was killed, to bury that piece of the World Trade Center Colonel Bowers had carried on their entire mission.
We took the piece, put it in a body bag, folded American colors over it, as when we lay our heroes to rest in Arlington. We did that because it was so important to all of us that this piece of the World Trade Center was buried in a spot that was full of Al-Qaeda terrorists and memorialized.
10 years later, these horse soldiers' stories are being memorialized in Dow Bloomberg's monument to all U.S. Special Operations Forces.
The image, I think, typifies the special operations mission of get the job done, however you have to do it, adapt, overcome.
Which is Dow's mission too. Overcome every obstacle to get the job done. The clock is still ticking.
This is the last nerve-wracking part. Potholes, hills. I drove with the guy who's driving Craig, and he drives like a bat out of hell.
From driving the statue across country.
Right down the middle, Dow. Stay away from the streetlights.
Roger that.
To assembling it in New York, in time for its debut in the nation's Veterans Day Parade.
Just humbled. Kind of the end of a journey. It's better than I imagined. It's like God used me to create it. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful, and it's just nothing I would change. Kind of overwhelming.
The artist's mission, just like the horse soldier's mission, accomplished.
It's phenomenal to see how a picture can transform itself into a work of art, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's even more captivating than the original model. But to see it now and just the look on the guy's face, the attention to detail on the horse itself, and all the nuances of what we went into Afghanistan are really captured.
It's definitely historical. It makes it all worthwhile.
All right. Looking good, troops, looking good.
I love it when people walk up to these guys and say thank you. And we're driving past thousands of people right now holding up thank you signs and screaming out thank you. You guys are great! That's really cool.
This statue commemorates an amazing moment in military history. The general is actually still sitting with us.
Well, we had something called air power, and you know we're not fans of fair fights if we can avoid them. And indeed, what they were doing was they were setting conditions by which we could bring to bear all these other combat enablers, air power, and so forth, and that's what really turned the tide there.
General David Petraeus's words during the parade, reinforced by Vice President Joe Biden at the statue's official dedication ceremony.
You will not find in all of history a group of men with more courage, with more conviction, with a greater sense of patriotism, and more absolute outright damn skill than the men who are being honored by that statue. The courage of the first into battle is what guarantees the courage of those that follow. And you all were into battle before America really knew we were at war in Afghanistan. It's the courage of Army Sergeant First Class Joe Young, who's here today. In the first days of the mission, his horse slipped in the treacherous mountains, and a horse fell on top of him and broke his back. So what do? He took 2 shots of morphine, remounted his horse, and continued on. Because in his words, I wouldn't allow myself to be the weak link. It's not my nature, and it's not the nature of any Green Beret. Sounds like something out of a movie. But this is real. This happened. Lieutenant Colonel Max Bowers had been carrying a fragment of the World Trade Tower Center with him during the entire mission, so he'd never forget. When the Taliban fell, he buried that fragment in Afghanistan, y'all.
We did that because it was so important to all of us that this piece of the World Trade Center was buried in a spot that was full of Al-Qaeda terrorists and memorialized.
Now, under the tread of this soldier's boots, the artist has placed a piece of gravel from Afghanistan so that we won't forget, and we never will.
I want this to completely overwhelm them and draw them in because it is such a unique image that I want them to be unable to ignore it and walk past. I want them to come back, what is this? And what it is guys on the other side of the world protecting our nation while you're comfortably in bed.
I hope people see it, hey, you know, that's representation of our forces and the commitment that our forces have to our country. I just hope the people that see that monument know the sacrifice of the ones that didn't come back.
You, our special forces, were our nation's avenging angels. And it's fitting and it's proper that a monument to you will stand here and honor the lives of those you have avenged as well as those with whom you served.
Master Sergeant Chris Spence, who shot the photo that originally compelled the artist, agrees.
These are the guys who have your back. These are the guys who are now watching an eternal vigil over Ground Zero. The falling of these towers launched us off on horseback. Now we're watching over you guys. We have your back.
The courage of the first into battle is what guarantees the courage of those that follow.
Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who mean just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret. Silver wings upon their chest, these are men, America's best. 100 men will test today, but only 3 win the Green Beret. Fight on, fight strong, till the battle has been won. Silver wings upon their chest, these are men, America's best.